Hello, welcome back to Statman Dave Clips. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Franck Kessie, his profile as a player, and where he should go next, with the reports that he's not going to sign a new deal at AC Milan, Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester United, all interested. Guys, if you're new around here, please hit that subscribe button. Of course, check out SofaScore. There is a link in the description below. Banging analysis football app. Go and check it out. Anyway, so let's dive into Franck Kessie and his contract that's set to expire at the end of this season. The guys at 90 Min got a little bit of an insight to the transfer, and they are reporting from their own sources that Franck Kessie is set to decide his long-term future in January, but a move to the Premier League sits high on his priority list ahead of the expiration of his contract. The 24-year-old defensive midfielder sees his deal with the Rossoneri ending in summer 2022. So that is the end of this season. That is big. Clubs that have been linked with the Ivorian international, of course, PSG, Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, Atletico Madrid, have all inquired. But the big news for Premier League clubs, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man United, Tottenham, Arsenal, Everton and Leicester City, all being kept aware of the situation. Of course, he is free to negotiate a contract in January. Franck Kessie is a wonderful footballer, a player that's been doing it over in Serie A for a number of years. First, coming through at Atalanta. Now, of course, at AC Milan, and become a real stalwart in the side for AC Milan. And we know Franck Kessie is a wonderful footballer, a player that reads the game supremely well, that can defend, that can attack, that has kind of a lot of different attributes in a sense. Good first touch, good passing range, but also, one of the big things with Franck Kessie is his goal scoring impact. Take a look at last season. Franck Kessie scored 13 goals, grabbed 4 assists from 37 games from central midfield. Of course, a number of those were penalties, but at the same time, he is putting the ball in the back of net and making it move. This season, really good performance against Juventus. Played a slightly deeper role at the start of the game, which is quite interesting. Juve are a team that are in transition right now, but AC Milan have an identity. They build with a back three. Kessie sat in front of that midfield at the start, but then kind of rolled that responsibility with Tonelli, sitting in and distributing the ball. Completed 96% of his passes against Juventus. 4 out of 4 of his long passes completed, 3 interceptions and a tackle. Not that much contribution in the attacking third in his 64 minutes, but very much operating in either that kind of number 6 position in front of the defence or more of as a box-to-box. Can see there, number 79. He's kind of a little bit deeper than his midfield partner, Tonelli, and number 8. We can very much see the back three made of Kerr, Tamore, and of course, Romagnoli. But Franck Kessie is a player that can play a number of different roles in the midfield, and I think that's why he's kind of an exciting player for a number of these Premier League teams. His performance against Spezia, again, we can see how involved in the heat map that he is, not only deep in midfield, but high up, kind of showing that true, box-to-box nature in this game. It's 4 chances created, 1 shot, so directly involved in 5 shots from central midfield in the game against Spezia in Serie A. Let's take a look at the Lazio one. 91% pass accuracy, very, very tidy on the ball. And he's quite open as well. He will play those long switches of play, the long switches out to the left, to the right, and so forth. 1 chance created, but of course those 7 out of 7 long passes, kind of what I'm talking about right there. Hit the post, but missed a penalty. Disappointing against Lazio from Franck Kessie. If we take a look at his profile, taking a look at statistically how he profiles, we rank his percentile. You've got a lot of good stats here in terms of the percentage of tacklers dribbled. He's in the 99th percentile. 61% of the players that have gone at him, he's tackled. Also looking at shot creating actions from central midfield is very, very good, as we mentioned there. His pass completion rate from a long perspective, medium perspective is very, very good. So kind of profiles him as a very all-rounded midfielder, and I think that's why a lot of different clubs are looking at Franck Kessie. And one of them, of course, being Chelsea. They're a club that have got a lot of quality going forward. They've got a lot of quality in midfield as well. So it's kind of difficult to maybe match that up and have a look because of the form of players like Kovacic this season have been sensational. But in the Chelsea team, if we are taking the 3-5-2 as the model, or even kind of looking at that 3-4-2-1 shape with Havertz and Mason Mount sitting behind Romelu Lukaku, I think the obvious position, maybe for Franck Kessie to come in midfield would be in that kind of Kante role, in that box-to-box role, but would have to play, from the left-hand side, maybe looking, a little bit further, if Chelsea don't want to go for Kovacic and maybe Saul goes back to Atletico Madrid, then playing, both Kante and Kessie in midfield in the big games, giving you massive amounts of work and box-to-box ability from two players. And we know that, N'Golo Kante is a very tidy footballer. I think Kessie's got a little bit of a longer range, but at the same time, I think, would add some good goal-scoring impact for Chelsea. And that's one thing that they do need from central midfield. I think that's why Saul was kind of brought in. If they are going to play 3-5-2, they need a central midfielder that's going to get into the penalty area and score goals. As much as Mason Mount is absolutely superb in that position, I think Franck Kessie does provide a different kind of driving threat to get into the penalty area that could overload the opponents with the wing backs in there, operating in those advanced areas and driving through and adding that sort of goal scoring threat in the penalty area. Let's move forward to look at another club. I think next, looking at the squad, Liverpool, another Premier League side that maybe be a little bit light in midfield. If we just take a look at their squad and have a little bit of an analysis of that, they are missing Wijnaldum. They don't have a Wijnaldum goal-scoring midfielder in there. Obviously, with the start of the season, Harvey Elliott was absolutely superb in that central midfield zone, but unfortunately injured now. But building out to the future, having a Fabinho, Franck Kessie, Harvey Elliott midfield could be something of absolute fire. But of course, Harvey Elliott has to get back from that terrible injury that he suffered. Looking at Liverpool in terms of kind of maybe their best team at the moment, I think you've probably got to get in Diogo Jota in there. You're probably going for Matip in as a centre back. But I think the interesting side with the Liverpool midfield is kind of how where does it go next? What's the next kind of iteration of this Liverpool team? And I think looking at the midfield, you could say this is potentially the best midfield in terms of Liverpool with Mane, Jota, Salah, Henderson, Thiago, Fabinho, Robertson, Matip, Van Dijk, and looking at bringing someone like Franck Kessie in, you're probably looking at replacing maybe that Thiago playmaking in certain games and allowing him to be that kind of advanced player that is going to break similar type of situation for with Liverpool, with Chelsea, that one of the big things that Kessie would do well is break from that midfield area and join the likes of Salah and Jota maybe in the penalty area, with Mane holding the width. Again, slightly different role for Robertson then in a controlling position. Trent could provide the width in the final third, but it would add good goal scoring threat. Alternatively, if you wanted to kind of go with Thiago in midfield as a playmaker, Mane coming inside, and then Franck Kessie could play on the right hand side with Trent. We saw how well the Elliott, Salah, Trent midfield three worked. And I think Kessie has that understanding and intelligence to go with that. Alternatively, if we're going for a completely different structure, you could be throwing Firmino in there, and then you've got a really, really solid base of real solid base of Franck Kessie and Fabinho, slightly different than what Liverpool could be doing right now, kind of that 4-2-4 approach, but that would give them a better base. I think, we've seen Fabinho and Henderson play there at times, and I think that's a good base. I think Franck Kessie in that position would be top quality as well, and I think still could add that goal scoring threat, but as we saw previously, very good at just sitting in front of the defence and spreading it out, and has that ability to read really well. There's a moment in the recent Champions League game, I think when Salah came inside, it was just good tracking from Franck Kessie and read the play, stepped in, made the interception, sorted out a real problem for AC Milan. And finally, I think looking at the last little Premier League club we're going to look at, Manchester United. How would Franck Kessie fit into Manchester United's midfield? Again, when we're looking at the kind of squad of Man United, they do lack a player of Franck Kessie in a sense. I think Franck Kessie's more on that kind of that box-to-box vibe, maybe similar to Scott McTominay, but I think both of those two could play in midfield together, and having that kind of one of them goes, one of them holds kind of fluidity at the base of midfield. I think that very much works for Man United, but very much kind of looking at the 4-2-3-1 system and shape. And I think it would be kind of looking at that midfield pairing of Fred and McTominay and maybe throwing him into that mix. And Franck Kessie was really good against Manchester United in last season's Europa League. Starred for for Milan. Really unfortunate not to grab himself a goal, but it was a good display from central midfield. Very box to box like. And I think when you do step up and you play against Manchester United and you show good ability to press, to win the ball back, but also read the play and get into the penalty area. I think that's something that you got to highlight and think, okay, this guy is an absolute player. It was more of the kind of the attacking side against Manchester United. 1 chance created, 3 shots, 1 out of his 2 dribbles completed, but unfortunately got his goal ruled out, and it was a brilliant finish. So in terms of how it would look for Man United's midfield, I think it's going to be playing on the same 4-2-3-1 that we've kind of expected to see from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and I think it would be in one of these deeper positions, playing as that guy that's going to break forward at times, that's going to get into the striking position that at times, with Man United's build-up, having a single pivot in there and allowing Franck Kessie to be in between the lines and receive with the likes of Paul Pogba looking for those options to feet. I think that's kind of good, but also from a ball-playing perspective as well, having that double pivot in there would work really well. Obviously, the having one box-to-box, you kind of want a box-to-box with a deep-line playmaker. I think that's probably the best combination. We look at Bayern Munich as a great example of that. Joshua Kimmich and Goretzka. Man United could do that with Declan Rice and Franck Kessie in there, having one kind of deep line playmaker, a guy that's going to get on the ball, move it around, play the progressive pass. We know Declan Rice's stats this season are sensational from a progressive situation, more carries into the final third and more passes into the final third than any other player. But that would pair really well. Think about the partnership at West Ham United, Thomas Souček and Declan Rice. That is a box-to-box midfielder with Declan Rice, and it works really well. And we can see Declan Rice advance as he has done at this time, Kessie hold, and the other way around with Kessie advancing and Rice holding. I think that pairing would be super, super fluid and allow United to progress, but also add that goal-scoring threat from central midfield. Thanks for watching, guys. If you are new around here, please hit that subscribe button and check out SofaScore. Link in the description below. Anyway, until next time, much love. See you later.